Welcome to Fright Night.
For real.
Fright Night came out during the mid-80s when the vampire subgenre was in need of modernization. Fright Night's about when Charlie, played by William Ragsdale, suspects his new neighbor Jerry, played by Chris Sarandon, is a vampire. When he finds out he is a vampire, he tries to convince his friends and the authorities, but no one believes him.
Charlie, is this some sort of a trick to get me back?
He then tries to convince his TV hero, Peter Vincent, played by Ryan McDowell, who turns out to be a fake. They then must team up in order to put an end to Jerry before he takes any more lives. Fright Night is not just one of the best vampire movies ever made, but it's easily one of my favorite movies of all time. I love how realistic the film's setting is and the characters in general. I also love the character arc that Peter Vincent goes through, from being a frightened fraud to a man who stands up to his fears. Jerry's that kind of villain where you can either love him or hate him, but you also feel sorry for him at the same time. Evil Ed's that kind of weird kid we all knew. You may feel sorry for him, but you also might find him annoying. I love how the movie gradually picks up pace and by the climax and turns to a grade A effects show. It's nice to see that it keeps the old myths of the vampire while giving it a modern look. I give Fright Night 4 stars out of 4. It's just perfect. Fright Night Part 2 came out 3 years later. It's about when the sister of Jerry, played by Julia Carmen, wants revenge for the death of her brother by going after Charlie and Peter. I like it that it's a direct follow-up to Fright Night and it does reference it, but I don't like it that Charlie has a new love interest this time. The visuals are good again, but the movie has a bit of a direct-to-video quality to it, even though it came out in theaters. There's nothing much I can say beyond that, so overall I give Fright Night Part 2 2 stars out of 4. After Fright Night Part 2, there's a comic book series that ran for about a couple of years. So next we have the remake from 2011. Unlike the original where the setting was in a nameless suburban town, this one is set in Las Vegas. Charlie this time is the skeptical one and Evil Ed's one suspicious of Jerry being a vampire. To be honest, I thought Colin Farrell's Jerry was a perfect casting choice, but they graded him for being a sort of a complex and interesting villain from the original to a two-dimensional monster. What I liked about the original was that the casting of Charlie and Amy was great because they looked like a couple, but in this version you have an okay looking guy with a very attractive woman. I know that not every couple can be Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, but that's not very realistic in my opinion. Peter Vincent is played this time by David Tennant. In the original, Peter's a fraud, but at least you rooted for him. But in this version, Peter's not very likable and he lacks the charm that Ryan McDowell had. But the worst casting decision has to be McLovin as Evil Ed. I know his real name is Christopher Mintz-Plasse. I'm not so sure if I'm saying that right, but most people will know him as McLovin. Speaking of his name, I don't even recall them even calling him Evil Ed. The climax, unfortunately, is significantly shorter than the original. It also seems in this movie's universe that the fire department doesn't exist, and the police are just a bunch of clueless imbeciles that don't even wonder why there are a bunch of people disappearing from a specific subdivision. The cameo appearance by Chris Sarandon was cool, and it made the movie better. Fright Night is just another butchered up remake that had a lot of potential like other horror remakes, but it doesn't even come close to being as great as the original. Although the visual effects were pretty decent, and it's one of those rare films I would recommend seeing in 3D, it's just a mixed bag. I give the 2011 remake of Fright Night 2 stars out of 4. Now recently there has been a direct-to-video sequel, or so it seems. The most recent movie is Fright Night Part 2, The New Blood. I find it strange they call this Part 2, let alone Fright Night, because it has little to do with the remake or the other Fright Night films before it. If it was a sequel, then why is Evil Ed alive? Didn't he die in the remake? Second, there is not a single mention of Jerry, so that rules out any chance of this being called a sequel. So I'll just get on with the plot is. As you can tell, none of the cast members from the remake are here, but at least this Evil Ed looks more like the Evil Ed from the original. Charlie, this time played by William Payne, is in Romania and taking night classes with his friends, but then he discovers that his teacher is a vampire. You basically know the rest from here and it's pretty much charted territory. I wouldn't mind it, but it's just poorly done. For some reason they try to tell us that Dracula's a woman.
Dracula was actually a woman.
It's like saying that Susan B. Anthony was a man. At least Peter Vincent is on TV like he should. There's a scene where Jerry goes out to dump a body and Charlie sneaks around in her place. Then she comes back as an old lady, which doesn't make any sense since she looked normal looking when she left. There's a shot in the movie we can clearly tell that one of Evil Ed's hands do not have any pointy nails on them. I mean, they could afford some decent CGI, but they couldn't afford any fake nails they could have got in Party City? I know she's a vampire, but come on, she's not Wonder Woman. Speaking of vampire powers, there's this annoying bat sonar effect that is cheap and annoying as hell. The The climax just seemed like they were killing time. I thought it was gonna get good when Charlie became a vampire, but it was just wasted. So in conclusion, Fright Night Part 2 The New Blood is just as much of a wasted opportunity as a remake. I have nearly mixed feelings with this one, but I still prefer the remake. So overall, I give Fright Night Part 2 The New Blood 1.5 stars out of 4.